chased validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa, I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. A lot of it late tonight. I know how it is. We'll be like 30 minutes late. It is what it is. I tell you all on a regular basis that, we're live 7 nights a week. We do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. So we ask you guys to like and subscribe, hit the notification buttons, mash those reaction buttons, but also take a look at what we got going on in the membership, because we're throwing a lot of stuff into the membership throughout the week, because we got a lot of different things coming up throughout the week. Sunday, which is tomorrow, we cover questions and comments from the fans. So you guys got questions, I got answers. Appropriate questions about appropriate topics, appropriately structured. Anything inappropriate could get you chucked out, right? Beyond that, then we have on Mondays, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have business and politics discussions, where on Mondays we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. This particular upcoming Monday, we're going to be discussing how the Russia-China redistribution of commerce has directly impacted what we got going on as far as receiving geopolitical trades during the war. We'll also give you guys updates. Special shout out to Tiffany. That does not look like a Tiffany. Who channel you got? Tiffany looks like a Carl. Oh, Tiffany and Jermaine. Oh, special shout out to Jermaine. Okay, there we go. I was looking. I was like, wait, hold on. Yeah, we're live. We're live. So um, either way, after we finish covering what's happening with what's going on with the war and really how that impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money, then we start talking about on Tuesdays different ways to. A special shout out to Baca. Special shout out. He says, "What's up, fam? What's up with you?" They got some people that just have some really off the wall names. I'm just like, all right, no chill. Either way, recognizing that we talk about ways to make money, save money, invest money. You can start up businesses online. You can utilize fintech. You can automate things that way you can start generating a large quantity of revenue. Uh, Then we start talking about different ways to budget money, save money, and invest money. I spent all afternoon talking to some of the people that I know around the way about how to get in there and start investing in brokerage accounts and getting everything set up and start making money, make money for themselves. And they was explaining to me how they invest in certain things, but they're investing in stuff that turns out to be growth stocks. They watch it go up, they watch it go down. They're excited when it goes up, they're depressed when it goes down, but it's a growth stock. It's not giving them any money. And then I started exposing to them the ideas of dividend paying stocks, because a dividend paying stock doesn't matter if it goes up or down, as long as the company stays in existence and doesn't slash its share prices or payments, then you're going to be benefiting from whatever if they're giving you 12 cents a share every month, you're getting 12 cents a share every month. If you're paying $2.50 for the stock, you buy 200 stocks, you start getting a bunch of money in there. So we pay attention to that kind of stuff to make sure that, everybody knows, hey, you could be generating revenue on a regular basis. So if he's got growth stocks and those growth stocks aren't doing nothing for him, and then he switches over to dividend paying stocks, and he can buy and hold stocks, and he can use those stocks to make money for him. If you're able to put away $300 a month every month on growth stocks or on cash and dividend stocks, then um, those cash dividend stocks, those cash paying stocks, that's a second income. So whether you work every day or if you're retired, especially if you're retired, because they don't have, outside of disability, they don't have caps on how much money you can make. But at the end of the day, if you're living a life off of a 100% dividend paying brokerage stock, especially if there's one like one of the ones I got in the membership that gives you um, dividends and growth, so that you can leverage that against something else. Your ability to make money for yourself allows for you to get paid in your sleep. That's not a lot of stuff that people see, know about, or even think about. So I gave you guys a lot of money about it. Dude was telling me, he's like, oh man, you should start up a class and teach all the people around here. Probably could. I didn't even think about that. I'm already doing a lot of stuff in a lot of places, but yeah, I probably could. I probably could have a seminar and charge everybody $20 a head to meet me at the town hall, and we talk about how to invest in yourself so that you can stop being broke as fuck. But a lot of those people could also just click the link and watch the podcast and get the same information and join the membership and don't have to leave their house. So it's up to them. So that's what we try to talk about. So yeah, we got a lot of that stuff going on. Then on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that you can invest in and potentially live in, and have your money stretched longer. Because I mean, if your standard of living is 30% in another country than what it is in your current country, then your $50,000 a year in America would be twice as much in another country, where 24,000 a year would be satisfactory. 50,000 a year would be paycheck to paycheck. 24,000 a year would be overdoing it, right? So we give you guys all that information on Wednesdays. Then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Today being Saturday, we give you guys knowledge and information about personal development, personal improvements, relationship topics, negotiation, socializations, building your brand, and then discussing raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages. And then we start covering other things like building your 20-year or 30-year plan. Because once you figure out where you want to be at in 20 or 30 years, that's when you're capable of deciding what do you got to do today to get there. And something as simple as pay yourself first. If you're going to say, well, I'm going to take $200 out of whatever I get put it into my brokerage account, guaranteed, hands down. No matter how much money I get, I'm gonna put $200 into my brokerage account, and then whatever I got left, I'm gonna pay bills. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna short something somewhere to make sure that if I don't got enough, I still got the money in my brokerage account. You make sure that you put your money towards your future. You know, because again, if you're putting away, $200 isn't a lot of money, but if you're putting away $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year, and that's 24,000 in 10 years plus interest. And that's not a lot of money, but when you think about the difference between every life choice that you would have made for short-term entertainment that would have cost you $24,000 a year, that you could have took that $24,000 a year, put it into a brokerage account, that type of stuff, smoking, drinking, hanging out with the fellas, could have essentially built you $250,000, $300,000 plus interest worth of a brokerage account, which ultimately with interest could have put you somewhere close to $500,000 in a brokerage account, which also over the long run of things, over 20 years would have gave you $1 million, $1.2 million in the brokerage account just by changing poor choices to good choices. So we give you guys all of this information with your decision-making skills in your personal life negatively impacts your overhead because it costs money to make decisions. Buying gifts for your girlfriend, leaving the engine running at the store, whatever it is, it costs money to do certain things. Then you have to go out and make that money so that you can live that lifestyle. Okay. And then if you can't make that money, you put more pressure on the source of income, whether you're putting more pressure on your boss, trying to get more overtime, trying to get raises, trying to get promotions that you probably don't qualify for because of your criminal record or whatever. Then you get frustrated with your job. You want to quit your job and go find another job. But it's not like they're going to pay you more somewhere else because you are the top end of hourly wage. That's it until you switch over to salary, which you got to figure out what you got to do to get that. Until you switch over to salary, that's it. You're capped, right? Your lifestyle is capped. So the only thing you can do is spend less money or find ways to start up your own business and start making more money on the side, right? Now, all of this, if you were working for yourself, would lead you to raising prices on your customers because, somebody is going to pay for what you want. So if you raise prices all the way around, then you find yourself in a situation where, people will buy your product, but less people are going to buy your product. So instead you have a steady stream of income, a steady set of hours, a steady schedule. Now you have a fluctuating schedule. You have fluctuating income. You still got income coming in. It might actually, ironically, be the same quantity of money that was coming in before. You just worked less to get it because you raised prices, but the market isn't sustaining your price value, right? But if you have a sustainable standard of living modestly, then you wouldn't have all of these extra expenses that you can't afford to pay for, which forces you to charge more money in other places, right? So we give you guys all of this information to help you guys be better at what you do. Now, today we're supposed to be talking about reading the body language and figuring out what to do and how to do it to navigate through this type of social interaction. And special shout out to Steven. I see you there, buddy. If you've replayed it in your head hundreds of times, hi, James. Special shout out to James. If you've replayed this in your head thousands of times, you know that laugh, the way that she maybe tucked her hair behind her ear, the brief touch on your arm, you ask yourself, was she flirting or just being a nice person? All guys ask themselves, was her behavior flirtatious or interested in you, or was that just how she behaves in general? Because a lot of the times we don't pay attention and we get it wrong, right? You've seen the lists online, like top 10 signs that she's into you. Y'all see it all over YouTube, right? You look for a hair flip, the leg cross, the coy smile, and you still end up confused and rejected. You wanted to know why. Because you're looking for mythical signals instead of the scientific truth. Her body language isn't a show that she's putting on for you. It's an honest gut level reaction. And the key to seeing it isn't on a checklist. It's the understanding of how she acts normally. So in tonight's show, I'm going to pull back yet another curtain and then show you guys how to stop guessing and start seeing the real, unfiltered signs of attraction. Because one of the things that you guys can do that'll mess up your money is spend all this money on this girl that you think likes you. You're buying all the stuff for her at the bar. You're treating her to all this stuff. You may even invite her out for a date tomorrow in the afternoon or whatever like that, or later this weekend or whatever the case may be. And she's into the activities that are being covered at your expense, but she's not into you. You don't figure it out until you actually prostrate yourself in a position to get confirmation of a commitment. And then at that point, that's when she starts telling you the truth. Like, it was fun while it lasted, but I wasn't into you, right? And a lot of men ask themselves, well, why the fuck were you here this whole time if you weren't into me? Because you were paying, jackass. That's why, right? So one of the reasons why I tell you guys, don't lead the relationship with your wallet. Lead the relationship with your personality and your characteristics, your charisma. Because if there's no money on the table, she's not entertained by anything other than your physical presence. I tell you guys this, but not a lot of people listen just yet. But we're not just going to give you another list that you're going to memorize. We're going to give you a framework for observations that will change how you see every single human interaction from now on, right? The internet is going to be flooded with terrible advice on this. So-called experts that promise a secret key to unlocking a woman's mind, selling you on the ideas that if you just spot a few specific gestures that you'll have the cheat code for attraction. We've covered this on the show quite a few times. That whole approach is broken, and we busted the myth on that already. I think we just covered the in-depth advanced stages of breaking that myth yesterday, right? It's like trying to understand a language by memorizing 5 random words. You might recognize something once in a while, but you'll never actually get what's being said. The real problem is that these lists ignore the 3 most important things in reading anybody: the context, the clusters of signals, and most importantly, their own personal baseline. A single gesture means absolutely nothing on its own. A hair flip could be a signal of attraction, but it also could mean her scalp itches. She has a nervous tick, or in fact, she just is getting her hair out of her face. Crossed arms are always a sign of being closed off, right? Which is why they tell you that as men, you should always have your hands in front. You shouldn't have yourself in any type of closed off position, you know? But a lot of the times, it's also a self-soothing gesture, like a self-hug that shows a person is comfortable or just thinking deeply. Somebody's talking to you, you're like, oh, okay. You know, some people do it because their back hurts. And instead of doing this, we do this. We adjust our posture just to make sure, you know what I mean? Special shout out to Michael. He says it's sad that you have to promote leaving the country to be able to live when you should not have to struggle in America with all the money coming in. By the way, gas in Washington State, gas is what, $5, $6 a gallon right now? I agree, Michael. I believe that we should not have to live the type of lifestyle. If we were financially responsible, it wouldn't be a thing. The so much money comes into America, which is why we're declared as one of the richest countries in the world, because so many things are sold in America and people make trillions of dollars off of the American people's poor spending habits. But the dynamic is that there is 77%, because the top 23% of Americans make over $150,000 a year. The bottom 73%, still living from check to check, is just getting by. Middle class at $100,000, $150,000 is just getting by, paycheck to paycheck. Because you got folks in California that's making $250,000 a year and they're living paycheck to paycheck. But the standard of living in California is expensive. Like California requires $45 an hour as minimum wage. That's not even living wage, right? But the problem is that any extra dollar that the average American has, they waste it on bullshit. They don't invest it in themselves. They don't invest it in their future. They don't manage their money in a way where they have money making money for them. They put themselves in a position where they're not making any money, right? And then after they're not making any money, then they're disappointed that they're still broke 5 years into a relationship, 10 years into a relationship, they're still struggling 5 years into a marriage, 5 years after the relationship started. So they've been together for 10 years, married for 5. And they're in these positions where they're not satisfied, they're not happy. But the truth of the matter is that they um, didn't do what they were supposed to do with the money. Then when you have a family emergency, there's not enough money going around. That's the other problem. And then you have the type of families that have so many family emergencies, and since you're the most financially successful person in your network, everybody comes to you for a handout. You hand it out because loyalty dictates you ain't gotta ask, I'll just give, right? Which puts you in a financially strained situation, because if you're not a good friend, if you're not giving them money, right? Now that puts you in a compromised situation, because when you run out of money to give because all your friends is borrowing money from you, you don't have any money left to build yourself up. They don't pay you back. Oh, they don't gotta pay me back. They my friend. But they're not, when you're financially hurt, they're not there to pull you out either, because they don't have enough money to survive, which is why they always come to you for money. And that's one of the reasons why everybody stays broke together. Because even if you're financially responsible about your shit, you stop being financially responsible when you start taking care of other people's financial responsibilities. When you start subsidizing poor financial decision making skills. And poor financial decision making skills doesn't start and stop with getting unnecessary loans and credit cards. Poor financial decision making skills includes drinking and driving, spending too much money at the club, buying all the stuff for chicks, buying gifts for your wife, or buying expensive stuff for your wife when you could have bought something simple from the dollar store. You know, buying expensive stuff for your kids when you could have got something simple for your kids. Buying extra stuff for your pets when you could have got something simple for your pets. Getting a bunch of pets when you could have just stopped with one. Your poor decision making skills could be going to jail unnecessarily. Your poor decision making skills could be upgrading your car stereos. There's a lot of things that people do that should not be done, where, oh yeah, it looks good, but there's no practicality to it. That's the issue. That's the biggest issue. There's no practicality to what they're doing. You know, he's at California, the Brown State. They got a lot of them all over the place, but what you got to understand is just that it's it's uh it's poor decision making skills. But one of the reasons why I promote our ability to lead this country and live in a more affordable way is because, first and foremost, uh, so many women will swear up and down that they love to travel, right? And when women paint this fictitious picture that they love to do something that they never do, what they're doing is they're setting the standard for the guy that they're trying to that they're going to allow to date them. His goal in life is to give her everything that she would like, right? Everything that she would hope for, right? That's why men want to know what's her favorite food, what's her favorite movie, what does she do for fun, what is all the things that make her happy, so that he can go out and get all the things that makes her happy. So if she just throws out there steak and lobster, fuck, we're eating steak and lobster all the goddamn time. Pasta, lasagna, shrimp scallop, and all this other shit, because she's got expensive tastes. I'm gonna take her to expensive places, right? Now, what that does is that allows her to enjoy expensive shit that she otherwise would not have gotten for herself, but she can't afford that shit. But because it's on him, she can get a higher quality of life. She set standards like, oh, I like to travel. So even though most guys can't afford to travel on a monthly basis, if I could take you somewhere once a year or take you somewhere expensive once every 5 years, out of the relationship. In a decade, we should have left the country once before we got married and left the country once after we got married, 2 times after we got married, because we should have left the country once for our honeymoon and left the country one more time after that, right? Because she likes to travel, right? So if your end goal is being able to travel the world, if your end goal is to be able to go and visit other countries, the fact is that California, Florida, Texas, New York are some of the most expensive places in the United States, and very few places meet that standard. Denmark, Switzerland, Norway, Hong Kong, and I think no, China's cheap. China's cheap. Hong Kong is expensive though. Hong Kong and New York are on par with one another. You know, Switzerland, Sweden, Denmark are on par with California and Texas and Florida. But all of the other countries that we cover, not that expensive, you know? So there is a way for you to go to a different place and be able to enjoy life. So you don't have to move to another country to stretch your money further. But when we discuss geo arbitrage, you're able to live that lifestyle that you live in America for 6 months during the year. Then you go to another country and you stay there for 6 months on a tourist visa or a digital nomad visa, because a tourist visa is 90 days, but a digital nomad visa might be 6 months to a year. So you put your 6 months in another country, save a lot of money, come back to America, and then boom, right? I always took flowers for my dates. I live next door to a cemetery. That's a good idea. He's cracking jokes, but I don't take him shit. I already put gas in the car. She better get her own damn flowers out of the damn cemetery. Um, because I've calculated, if I'm gonna get you fake flowers that will last forever, yes. But am I gonna spend $120 on something that's gonna last you 2 weeks? No, it's a waste of money. I won't get one flower for you. It's a waste of money. Exactly. Look, you saying McDonald's. I ain't even gonna get her fucking happy meal. You know, fucking $10. You got 2 shares of Ellington Real Estate Investment Trust for the price of a fucking happy meal right now. What 3 shares of Prospect Capital for the price of a happy meal. Now she tripping. Actually, more than that, because Prospect Capital is like less than $3 a share. So you could probably get, for the price of a happy meal, you can probably get 4 shares of Prospect Capital for the price of a happy meal. I'm not trying to play with that. I want to have the type of portfolio that pays me enough money to go to McDonald's. So if I'm gonna spend $30 at McDonald's once a week, $120 a week, or $120 a month, and if I'm doing $120 a month at McDonald's, then that means I need what, $1,500 in a brokerage account paying me $120 a month. Well, no shit. In order to get $120 a month, that would be upward of $1,200 a year. So that's upward to the magnitude of like $10,000 or $12,000 that I have to put in a brokerage account so that I can go and get McDonald's every week, once a week. When you think about it like a billionaire, it's like, in order for me to get McDonald's once a week at $30 a month, or $30 a visit 4 times a month, that's upward of almost $1,200 or $1,500 a year. And if you're doing, that's like what, 10 or 12% interest return on an investment. So you're looking at anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 investment in order to have that McDonald's. People weren't thinking about stuff like that. Broke folks wasn't thinking like that back in the day. Broke folks was thinking, let me get my paycheck and take $30 out and go to McDonald's. Take my principal and go to McDonald's. I'm at the mindset right now, like, fuck that shit. I will put the money away first, and when the brokerage account is paying me enough money to go to McDonald's, then I'll go to McDonald's. Put enough money away in a brokerage account, when the brokerage account is giving me $500 a month in order for me to pay for a Range Rover, Lambo, whatever the fuck, then I'll go get that. You know? But as long as there isn't enough money there to cover that, what is the benefit of spending all this extra money taking this chick to McDonald's so that she can order 2 number 1s, a number 5, and a number 6 because she got kids? I ain't got time for that shit. Look, the truth is, it's backed by decades of research in psychology and neuroscience. And this is the most reliable signals that aren't being telegraphed as moves being made by these females. They're the small changes from a person's normal way of being. Now, these honest signals come from the limbic system, the ancient emotional part of our brain that works automatically without our conscious control. Now, this system is responsible for our survival instincts, the fight, flight, or freeze responses, and it broadcasts our true feelings, comfort or discomfort, long before our rational brain can cook up a polite lie for the shit. So, learning to read body language isn't about decoding a secret code. It's about learning to observe what's normal and then notice what changes. It's a science of observation, not a magic trick. And the first most critical step is establishing a baseline. All right. This first point is the foundation for everything else. So you have to observe her baseline. What is it? Simply put, person's normal default behavior when they're in a neutral, relaxed state. That's how they act when they aren't under any real stress or excitement. It's their personal normal. Think of it like the idle hum of a car engine. Before you can tell if the engine is revving or stalling, you first have to know what it sounds like when it's just running. This isn't some new age dating advice. It's a cornerstone of professional behavior analysis used by everyone from FBI agents in interrogations to psychologists. FBI counterintelligence expert Joe Navarro has written over and over that without establishing a baseline first, you are just guessing. You're just projecting your own hopes onto a blank canvas. Every single person has a unique baseline. One person's normal might be a super animated behavior, talking with their hands, making big gestures, holding intense eye contact with everyone. Another person's normal might be incredibly reserved, quiet, with small gestures and a habit of looking down or scanning the room. If you use the same generic checklist for both of these people, you're going to fail spectacularly. For the animated person, a sudden drop in gestures and energy when she's talking to you is a massive red flag. Her energy falling off a cliff is a powerful signal of disinterest. So if she was all happy-go-lucky, hyperactive, and all this stuff, and then you slid over into her personal space, and now she's like all shut down, her gut reaction is broadcasting discomfort or, even worse, boredom. But for the quiet, reserved person, a sudden spike in animation, leaning in, making more eye contact with you than she does with other people, pointing her feet at you is a huge indicator of attraction. Now, a lot of the times what we see is people say, oh, well, if she's sitting in a certain way where her knees and her feet are pointed in your direction, that this means that she's interested in you. Well, if she's sitting in a dress and she's sitting in front of the camera and she doesn't want the camera to go up her skirt, she might be sitting this direction. Your ass might be sitting over there. You think that she gives a shit about you. She just doesn't want the cameraman looking up her skirt. You've got to pay attention to how she pays more attention to you than she does everything else in order for you to determine that that is because of you and not because of the environment that she's in. She's changing from her normal in a good way, spending more energy to engage with you, not because she's getting paid to do it, because she wants to do it. So how do you do this without being a creep? Because I mean, everything men do is going to be misogynistically considered like a creep, or what do they call that? Imaginistically, if I'm saying that correctly, where men are going to be shamed for being creeps, even though it's just like human instinct, it's natural, it's normal, it's appropriate interaction, but women are going to call everything a man does as being a creep until she wants something, right? So how do you do this without being classified incorrectly? It's going to be simpler than it sounds, right? And no, Michael, it's not going to be hiding in the bushes with binoculars watching from across the street. The key is going to be watching from a respectful distance before you even think about approaching. You want to just take 5 to 10 minutes. You're not staring, you're people watching. So, for example, if I'm sitting here and there's someone sitting across from me, I might be scanning the room, observing everybody so that I'm not just staring directly at this person, catastrophic terror, like I'm a blind man. But as I scan the room, I glance over at the other person and pay attention to their behavior patterns, their mannerisms, get an understanding of their baseline before I do anything else. Because I'm looking around and then going back to what I was doing, she should not, unless she's staring at me as much, if not more, than I'm staring at her, she should not be able to pay attention to the fact that I'm looking in her direction. But if she's making eye contact with me while I'm making eye contact with her, whether she was looking at me because she was interested or she was looking at me because her friend made her pay attention to the fact that I was looking, the fact is, once we make eye contact with one another, she knows that I know that she knows that I'm looking. And this is usually about the time where I get up out of the chair and got to go over there and go do something, right? Likewise, if she was staring at me and I noticed her, look away quickly. Sometimes that happens out of being shy, and sometimes that happens out of embarrassment because she actually is interested. But women are taught to wait to be approached, which is one of the biggest reasons why I strongly object to the falsified identification of egalitarianism, where whoever asks should pay, because women prostrate themselves in a position where they're going to get asked. They will linger in that situation until they get asked. Then they will insinuate, you're not going to ask, so that they get asked. And then that puts the burden of who pays on the guy instead of she was interested in him and she initiated. Female initiation typically starts with a female making herself seen by the guy, by posing or something like that, looking attractive, and then making herself acknowledged by the guy. Whether she bumps into him, trips on him, or whatever, finds a reason to start an engagement with him, and then she lingers with the guy until she can get him to subconsciously think that it's his idea to ask her for the number, and then she gives him the number. Then he sets up the date. Everything's on him, but she was interested in him. She should have just came over like the girls in Switzerland and say, "Hey, I'm interested. On me, let's go." Right? But for the sake of discussion, you want to take 5 or 10 minutes. You're not staring at her. You're people watching. You've got to recognize that you're from the perspective of a scientist gathering data. You're not just staring the girl down uncomfortably. How she interacts with her friends, with the barista, with other people around her, you want to pay attention to a few key things about this. First, what's her animation level? Is she using her hands a lot, or are they pretty still? Is her energy high and bubbly, or more calm and subdued? Second, what's her normal pattern of eye contact? Does she make and hold strong eye contact with her friends, or does her gaze tend to shift and scan? Some people are naturally shy and will avoid long eye contact with everyone. And ironically, some people are instinctively shy, even though they're outgoing people. So while they might interact with people without much issue, their internal instinct is to shy away from other people, look down and look away. A lot of the guys are taught and raised, to stand at an angle and don't make direct eye contact. Talk in the presence of one another, not directly at one another. Right? So I'm over here, you're over here. We're talking where you can hear me, but you're looking over there and I'm looking over here. A lot of people are raised not to have a lot of direct eye contact with one another. Right? So you got to pay attention to that. Mistaking that being their normal state for a personal rejection is going to be a classic mistake. You need to see if her eye contact pattern with you is a major change from her pattern with other people. Does she hold your gaze for a second longer than she did with the waiter? Does she look at you, look away, and then look back again? That re-engagement is a critical change. If people don't look at you, they are not shy, but uncomfortable with themselves. Well, that's almost the same thing, Michael. If they're uncomfortable with themselves and, like the thing, low self-esteem, they're self-judging while they're interacting with you. They will look down and look away out of embarrassment. But that personal embarrassment of engaging you is a form of shyness. That is a instinctual retreating from the engagement for fear of rejection, fear of judgment. But it's not because they're not interested in you. It has nothing to do with you. But if you take that as rejection from that person because they shied away from you, because they looked down and looked away, they don't want to make eye contact, but they're not leaving, they're not walking away really fast. They're kind of lingering in your area, but they're looking at their feet. You know, you have to understand the holisticness of their entire body. We all hate. Oh yeah, we do. But even though every human being on the face of the earth hates rejection, but the problem is that men experience rejection more than women, and since women have the privilege of not knowing what rejection feels like until they're in their late 30s, early 40s, women believe that men should just man up and accept the rejection. But a man has to engage 500 to 1,000 women to get one yes. A woman tells 500 to 1,000 men no every day before she says yes once, which is why women have this false sense of belief that they have more options. They can get any man that they allow to be in their presence, which is men that they don't want, but they're single by choice because the man that they want doesn't want them. Everybody hates rejection. But recognizing that everybody hates rejection, women have not changed their behavior. Instead of simply rejecting the person on first sight, she should navigate getting to know the person, establishing a baseline interaction with the person, and then seeing how a platonic relationship can benefit the other person as well as herself, instead of just outright rejecting a guy. Well, I'm not interested in sleeping with you, so put you in the friend zone. If every interaction with the woman started with friends and led to a direct relationship where we were friends to marriage, all the guys in the friend zone have not proven themselves husband material yet. But the first guy that proves themselves husband material comes out of the friend zone and goes into the dating field. If women were like that, the way we were in the 70s, the way we were in the 60s, where you hang out, 3 girls, 3 guys, we hang out in a group, and then whoever likes whoever pairs up, and then we start doing one-on-ones. We were friends first, and then we became lovers. That type of dynamic, that was last generation stuff, but that was when relationships were serious. Everybody was friends. Now it's first contact. Let me give you my social media handle if I'm not interested in you. Let me give you my direct phone number if I am interested in you. If I'm interested in you, then we can start dating. If I'm not interested in you, then I'm gonna put you in a friend zone. So there's 2 times that you get shut down. I'm like, some bullshit. He said, book it tonight. The Trail and Death of Socrates, or the Trial and Death of Socrates. TRIAL, Trial and Death of Socrates. Group therapy. Yeah, these females need some group therapy. Special shout out to Joel, and he's back. Hookup culture objectified people. Well, hookup culture didn't objectify people. Men objectified women. Women self-objectified themselves for attention and profit. And then hookup culture became the result of that. Because a lot of the young men who chase sex first will go out and say and do whatever they got to do to get the girl. Sometime in the 90s, it went from having wit and charisma to it ain't tricking if you got it, right? When Beyonce was singing, "Can you pay my bills, bills, bills," right? Then women started thinking, oh, well, if all these dudes want is sex, well, if you pay my phone bill, if you pay my car note, if you pay this, if you pay for that, we're going to do it anyway, but at least I get something out of it. So instead of me just giving it away for free, let me at least turn a profit off of it. And that's when it started becoming transactionalized. But hookup culture has always been around as far back as Woodstock, sex, drugs, and alcohol. The only difference was back then, they weren't lying about it and calling it dating. They weren't lying about it and calling it talking to somebody or just seeing each or open explorations or whatever the fuck they're labeling it right now. They were straight up telling the truth. Oh no, we're about to go to this fuck party on the other side of town, take some ecstasy, drop a little bit of LSD, and whatever happens, happens. And then we're going to come back and hopefully take some penicillin for 2 weeks and be good, right? We were legit back in the day, right? And that's really the difference. But back then, because we knew that we were going to a social function to be whores, we're not trying to find a wife in that group. But when we find a girl in a library, or when we find a girl free love. When we find a girl in the library, when we find a girl in a grocery store, when we find a girl on a corner store or something like that, in those moments, that wasn't one of those free love moments. I'm actually interested in you, and she carried herself in a position where she's looking for, a suitor. Now women aren't looking for suitors because women are taught, you can be your own man by, going to college, getting your degree, getting a job, chasing your career. Now you're an alpha boss bitch. And now that you have done everything that a man would do in your life, women are taught, I don't need a man. That's a big problem because now they are not willing to be partners in relationships, which puts them in a compromising position because even though women are taught independence instead of self-sufficiency, nobody wants to be alone either. The same way nobody likes rejection, nobody wants to live alone their entire life. So eventually, she's going to get tired of her job. Eventually, she's going to get tired of however much money she's made for herself. Eventually, she's going to get tired of being in an empty house by herself. And that's when she's going to be looking for a man, but she has never been taught how to be a partner. And that is why at 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, it is impossible or nearly impossible for her to find a man in Western culture because she's no longer eligible because of her age and lack of fertility and her lack of cooperation that has been manifested from a young age, that has been reinforced over decades. And now that she knows what she wants, but she doesn't know what you want, and she's not willing to give you what you want or what you need, that full totality is what disqualifies her holistically. Then what the women are going to do is shame the men for getting the younger girls because the younger girls haven't been corrupted by society yet. But when you go to the grocery store, do you get the meat in the front or do you get the meat all the way in the back? Most people go and get the one that was just put out, the one that ain't been out there for the whole month, the freshest one. Why? Because it hasn't sat there long enough to be tainted. It hasn't existed in public view long enough to be compromised. Everybody does it. We do it with our milk. We do it with our eggs. We do it with our cheese. We do it with our meats. We do it with our women. Okay? We treat the youngest child better than the oldest child because the oldest child has already been corrupted by life, and we spoil the youngest child. We do it with our kids, right? Because then they become people that got objectified. They got hurt. Oh yeah, once they get hurt, they get bitter. They get bitter and then they isolate themselves. Yeah, you're definitely right. They got picked up by girls too. Love affects. Times have changed. Yeah, times have changed. These girls ain't picking you up these days. They expect you to ride around with a belt. We also did that. Have tethers like cell phones. Oh, I remember those. The cups with the strings on them, and we were talking on one side and the other side. And then social media. Yeah, we didn't have cell phones too. Yeah, well, no, yeah. Back in Michael's day, they had payphones everywhere. Walter Crockett on the news. He had Matlock with the rubber band that could fix everything. Drinking underage, drugs underage, driving 70 or 80 miles an hour beyond the speed limit. Yeah, but they're still doing that, but everybody's got Hellcat on TV, 10 o'clock p.m. You would hear where your kids is at. But see, nowadays, we have around the clock TV. Back when Michael was 40, TV actually went off at a certain time. All you had was the lines on the screen and the fuzz or whatever. TV actually went off after a while. And it didn't come back on until the morning news. I didn't have street lights of a curfew or restrictions of movement. Nah, we had that being before the street lights came on. Arizona County boys. Oh no, we had that be home before the street lights came on, but we also had, if you was out, just don't come back home. We weren't told that you had to check in. If you wasn't here by the time the street lights came on, you better be staying by your friend's house. And typically, if we were staying by our friend's house, our friend had a sister. And we were trying to hook up with our friend's sister. The internet is the new TV. Yeah, about 97% of the people that watch my podcast watch it from a cell phone. So the internet on your cell phone has become the new TV, which is one of the reasons why cable is so expensive, because less people use cable and more people live stream off of their cell phones. We don't need cable anymore. All we need is some really good internet. Now, one of the third things that we want to pay attention to is going to be her posture and the use of her space. Does she naturally lean in when she's talking to people, or does she keep a more formal distance? You want to notice the direction of her torso as well as her feet. That's going to be one of the things we're going to be talking about. He says most of the kids just stare at the cell phones, even at rock concerts. Oh, yeah. Even at the parties, yeah. So if there's something interesting happening in front of them, they're staring at their phone, recording it in front of them. Or they're on their phone talking to other people about where they are, tagging where their location is. The whole world knows where the whole world is because the kids is posting everything about themselves. They do nothing with their lives. They do nothing that's fun. They do nothing that's actually daring or life-defying. Of course not. Like a bunch of zombies. You're damn right. Remember to like and subscribe. Make sure y'all match those notification buttons while we're, or click the notification buttons and match those reaction buttons while we're operating here. But yeah, we fit. So instead of going to the gym, they're doing workouts on a video game. They do everything on video games that they used to do in real life. Nobody has a go-kart anymore. Everybody's playing Forza. They don't even have Need for Speed anymore. Everybody's playing Forza, right? We used to be out there with go-karts and bicycles and soapbox racers, and when we couldn't get a soapbox racer, we would get a shopping cart from a nearby grocery store, get at the top of the hill and make it do what it do. They're not doing none of that stuff. We used to jump from rooftop to rooftop. We used to climb trees. We used to do all the stuff that nowadays they're like, oh, the child's safety is in danger because they're up a tree. Fuck you mean? We used to climb a tree and build a tree house in the fucking tree. How the hell did you get the tree house in the tree if you wasn't in the tree suspended from the tree without proper coverage below the tree? And if you fell, yeah, we're talking about female body language. We're gonna be paying attention to that right now. So as Norvo pointed out, our feet are often the most honest part of our bodies because we pay the least attention to them. So if her feet and her torso are pointed towards her friends, but then pivot to face you when you start talking, that's going to be a big indicator of interest. Not if her feet are pointing towards her friend and then she turns her torso to look at you. Not if her feet was pointed towards you, but her torso is looking at her friend. If her whole body was over here, and then for some reason she decides to shift her whole body over here, and now for the rest of the afternoon, she's primarily in this direction looking at you, look back at them, but back over here at you, that is the key that not a lot of people are paying attention to. But that's the one that shows interest. Her brain is going to subconsciously say that I want to be engaged right here where her entire body is shifted to. even if she's lying about it, even if she's, oh no, I'm not interested. No, because denial, social scrutiny, you can't take that offensively, but she's not comfortable with articulating with her social network of her likes and dislikes because she is, denying her own personal feelings to prevent from being judged by her network, her society. But you got to understand, if her body language is pointing at you, there's your sign. But here's something that you guys can try next time that you're in a coffee shop, a bar, courthouse, whatever. You want to focus on approaching anyone after the first 15 minutes. Just don't walk up and talk to them at all. Just watch what they do. Pick a person, any person. Doesn't even have to be someone that you're attracted to. Practicing on non-targets like an elderly couple or a group of guys is a great way of training yourself on this. You can do this with a group of girls that you have no interest in. It removes your own emotional bias and lets you observe more objectively. Watch a group, try to get a feel for each person's baseline. Who's the high energy one? Who's the quiet one? And then once you have a sense of their baseline, watch their changes as you approach. See how their behavior shifts when someone new joins the group. Do they talk faster, showing engagement, or do they answer with short responses? Do you see more self-soothing behaviors like rubbing their neck or legs? Those are often signs of stress or discomfort. A spike in those behaviors when you approach could be a sign that the interaction is making them anxious, right? He said women don't actually know what they want. Their bodies tell them what they want, and there are emotional creatures. Yes, sir. The CIA handbook actually covers a lot of this interrogation techniques. That's what I said earlier, that these are some FBI techniques. So I think 35 minutes ago I mentioned that. So Joel is reinforcing what I'm telling you guys, that the feds even do this, right? They use this to find a baseline to figure out what's going on. They generally communicate with you, and then after they get a baseline of what you've got going on, then they can tell the difference between what you were doing versus what you are doing, and be able to judge that holistically. So if they start running, they're not interested in you. Well, nobody actually starts running. Not mature adults do that. So if you walk up to an individual and they start running, so we're talking about a normal scenario, dress normal like this. I got a regular button down shirt, no tie, some slacks on, regular shoes. Walk up. I'm not dressed like a serial killer or nothing like that. I'm not dressed like a clown or anything like that. That would give them a reason to just take off running. So if I walked up and they took off running, Michael, they would be very immature individuals. If I walked up with a dog and they took off running, they would be very immature individuals, because mature individuals don't run unless their safety is clearly observed as being in danger, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. You observe the situation long enough to determine, should I run, should I stay, or should I fight? But if you see a person coming and you're going to treat this like tag, you're it, and take off running, clearly you're not mature enough to have an adult conversation with in the first place, right? So I'm about 6'4", 220 pounds, very muscular and manly looking. I get filtered or flirted with by women and girls often, although I'm autistic. Well, women want tall men. You meet the 1 percentile of men that all women are looking for, which is a very tall guy. And then if you're muscular as well, the tall muscular man is some of the the features, not characteristics, the features that women look for. They don't look at your personality. They don't look at your actual characteristics, whether or not you pay attention to them. He said autistic or artistic. Autistic is what he wrote, but it doesn't really change the dynamic. The logic is that they don't really care who you are. They don't care anything about you. You look tall, you look swole, they might be imagining sleeping with you, but at the end of the day, They don't care if you have good judgment. They don't care if you have good decision-making skills. They don't care if you're financially responsible. As long as you're willing to waste your money on them, they're not paying attention to none of that stuff. But see, if you were 5'4" and 155 pounds, nobody would talk to you. No female would talk to you. And it would have nothing to do with your autism. It would be specifically because you're not tall enough, right? The biggest pitfall in observing this stuff is ignoring the context. The environment changes everything. So a woman leaning close to you in a loud nightclub is probably just trying to hear you. That same closeness in a quiet library means something completely different. Alcohol is going to be another huge factor, which is why I discourage men from communicating with women when alcohol is present. It lowers inhibitions and can amplify open gestures, which can be easily mistaken for real attraction when it's just booze talking. A lot of people who would otherwise be more free-spirited and Woodstock style with drinking alcohol and popping mollies would potentially sleep with you just because they lost all of their self-control, not because they're actually attracted to you. Then the next day, they treat it like a mistake. And you're wondering what happened. He said, that's not true. I got an Irish friend, and he's about 5'4", and he literally has nailed every girl around because he's Irish. He even nailed the boss's daughter day one because he's Irish. We are talking about the extremely fair-skinned man with the reddish hair. It's a novelty. It's like being a black man in Asia. It's a novelty. Could probably pick up a lot of chicks just because I look different than everyone else. If I went to the Philippines, I could probably pick up a bunch of chicks just because I look different from everyone else, right? But that's not going to lead to a long-term relationship. So again, when we start talking about like a lot of people believe that a lot of men believe that if you can get laid, that's it, right? So your bro is able to get laid frequently. He has no problems with relationships. Getting laid in a relationship are not the same thing. So getting laid during the relationship will happen, but getting laid and maintaining or getting into a relationship are not the same thing. He might be able to have 1,000 one-night stands in a year, and a lot of people would consider that guy as to being a stud, like he's like the alpha guy in the group. But truth is, he's about as lonely as every other guy who's not getting laid because he can't get a girl to commit, even though he might believe that he's good in bed. No, he doesn't have red hair, just accents. That's the same thing. That's the same thing. If he's got burgundy colored hair, if it's like the reddish undertones, the reddish eyebrows, the fact is that you can tell that he's Irish just by looking at his features. That's a novelty in the United States. That's a novelty in the United States because the average blue-blooded Republican Caucasian male, that's normal. But a guy that looks like he's fresh off the boat from Ireland, especially if he's got an accent, that's new. They're going to sleep with a guy because he's different. Like I said, the same way if I went to another country and I'm the only black guy within 100,000 miles, I'm going to be a popular star. Everybody's going to call me Snoop Dogg, right? Chris Tucker, Chris Rock, you know what I mean? So the dynamic is that while yeah, he could probably get laid a lot often because women are interested in hooking up with him, they're not interested in establishing long-term relationships with him. So he doesn't have 5 wives, right? But he can sleep with 1,000 girls in a year. It's not the same. Imagine a chick that she's hot, she's almost like supermodel status. She would call herself a 10. A lot of people would call her like an 8 or a 9. All the guys would love to sleep with her. Now, if each guy that she wants, she will allow to sleeps with her, she can say to her that she can get any guy that she wants. No, any guy that wants to sleep with you will come. But you're single, you're not married, you hook up with guys every week. You can get laid as often as you want as a woman, but you're not able to maintain a boyfriend that's going to marry you. So again, the dynamic is hookup culture versus long-term commitment, not the same thing. But a lot of people classify them as the same thing, right? I know he was born in America several generations, but he did manage to nail all the women on Tinder. Right. Still not changing anything, guys. Joel, him being able to nail all the girls on Tinder are hoes anyway. So all the girls on Tinder are looking for hookups. And again, if he's promoting his Irish side, and again, you're still looking at Yes, you're right, Michael. You'll never know success if you never fail. You're not changing the dynamic, Joel, and the understanding is still going to be the same. He's on a dating app that is all about one night stands. He's making contact with individuals that are only interested in one night stands. He's able to have one night stands, frequent friends with benefits scenarios. All of these regular hookup scenarios where he's going to talk to the girl, he's going to go out with the girl, probably at his expense, not at her expense. By the end of the night, he gets laid, and he can do that 3, 4 times a week. Like I said before, if he's nailing 1,000 girls a year, you're gonna say, "Oh, he has no problem with getting girls." He's not keeping any of them though. He's not keeping any of them though. He gets from first contact to first night in bed. If he gets a second night in bed or the morning after sex, and that's pretty much all there is to it. There isn't a second. Sometimes, if there is a second, there isn't a third date. There isn't a long-term commitment. There isn't 5 wives. There isn't. He doesn't have a harem where there's 10 girls that are always hovering around him that never wants to leave his side and is willing to share him. He does not have the value from the women that he sleeps with because he's sleeping with low-value women. Exactly. I still live with my ex and my autistic daughter, and I'm not really ready to go to date. But my point is, bro, you still live with your ex-wife by choice, not by force. You choose to live with your ex-wife. She ain't ready to go nowhere. Even if she could, she ain't ready to go nowhere. If you had a girlfriend and you had a wife, and your girlfriend and your wife was in the same house with your daughter, you would be doing better than the Irish guy. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He says, question, is he paying these girls on Tinder? You know he is. Okay, and this is why I'm gonna say that he is, because I know Jonas gonna say, no, he didn't pay him, he didn't pay him. No, he did. He didn't specifically set up the transaction and say, okay, I'll give you $300 for the night. No, what he did was, I'll take you out. Let's meet. And we're going to sit here for 2 or 3 hours. I'm going to spend money on you. We're going to either eat, we're going to go to a movie, we're going to go dancing, we're going to do whatever at my financial expense. I'm going to entertain you for 2 to 3 hours, and then we're going to finish the night at either your place or my place, and then I'm going to get laid. Yes, he paid for every single one of those girls because that's how men were taught. Exactly. He ain't dating. He on the host roll. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He's on the host roll. But because he doesn't have a problem with getting to the one night stand, a lot of men with the old school mindset are going to believe that uh, the Irish guy has no problems with picking up chicks at 5'4". No woman wants a husband, or very few women wants a husband 5'4". Most of the women are going to tell you straight up that they want a husband at 6'4", 220, 250 pounds, muscular, more often than not Caucasian, and they're gonna talk about he's got to make over 100,000 a year. That's what they're willing to marry. Now, can me at 5'6.25" sleep with each one of those chicks that wants a 6'5" white guy? Yes, for the novelty, based on stereotypes, of course. But would any one of those women who would prefer something else actually say, "Oh, well, I'll marry this guy"? Not all the time. You say, "Yeah, I still get home cooked meals, laundry done, pulling on a daily basis." So you're still married to your ex-wife. You say, "Your friend is called a John." Yes, he definitely is. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because the girls and women don't separate. Women separate this in their mind, but they're not recognizing that it's not different. If you're only going out on this date at the man's expense, knowing that you're going to sleep with him at the end of the day, it is that exact same dynamic. This is the John that is treating you like an escort because he is only taking you somewhere so that he can sleep with you after the fact. You are not dating this guy to pursue a long-term relationship. You are with this guy this afternoon for the moment that he is paying for. And that dynamic is equivalent to an escort. It's equivalent to a call girl. But women will rationalize it in their brains as, oh, I'm just dating. We're just trying to see what's out there. Well, you're actually an escort without carrying the title of an escort. But those are the same girls that expect you to pay for their attention. Oh, if you're going to talk to me, you got to put gas in my car. Oh, well, where are you planning on taking me if you don't take me out? Because they have to gauge how much you're willing to spend on them before they agree to go out with you. If you say something cheap, oh, nah, get your broke ass from around me. So it's still the same escort style behavior. It's just masked by the hookup culture's dynamic of dating and socializing and stuff. Right? 150 roses. I ain't doing 150 roses. You know what? Fucking $12.50 a rose. 150 roses is too much money. The only difference is I get financial freedom and determine how to spend my money, and I'm no longer broke like when I was married. True, because she's got respect for you now. Special shout out to Nicole, Detroit, Michigan, in the house. No more tethers. Yeah, yeah. Now, establishing a baseline when you're paying attention to these females is going to be your defense against misreading the situation. It's the filter that you have to see everything through. Without it, every hair flip, every smile, and every touch is just noise. But once you have baseline, those same actions become signals. The change from the norm is where the truth is. This is one skill that we give you more accurate information than thousands of checklists ever could. Now, if we get to the next level, even if you get a perfect read on a baseline, there are powerful hidden filters that can twist the signals that you're getting. And this is going to be where most generic advice falls apart because it assumes everyone is a culturally identical neurotypical robot. Is it, and all the bills are paid on time? Damn right, they better be. Got like 2-3 checks coming in. Now that you paid off your truck, you should be able to start. Michael said, "Hello, Nicole." You should be able to start putting money into your brokerage account so you can start seeing results on your investments. Now, the truth is, people are going to be very complex. They're shaped by their biological, personal history, and their culture. So ignoring these factors is going to be why you can do everything right and still get rejected. Saturday night is complete now. Oh, of course, soon as she slides in. The first big filter to understand is neurodivergence and trauma. Conditions like autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and ADHD, and social anxiety can completely change how a person shows and feels interest. For example, a common piece of advice is to look for strong, consistent eye contact. But for many people on the autism spectrum, direct eye contact can feel overwhelming or even physically uncomfortable, no matter how attractive they are. So they might show interest, and it might be intense interest by staying close to you instead of staring at you, asking detailed questions about a shared interest, all while actively avoiding your gaze. So if you're rigidly following the eye contact rule, you completely misread the situation. Here, Nicole, 150 roses. Ah, I'm not buying 150 roses. The $12.50 a rose. Shit, that's like a few hundred shares some stock. We're not going there. Eyes up, not down there. Well, I mean, those guys that do the fake cucumber situation got girls looking at them for all the wrong reasons. But again, if they get the number, if they connect with the female, she's going to be looking at the guy for the fake cucumber situation instead of looking at the guy for his personality and his characteristics, right? Now, a lot like what we just said before, similarly, someone with ADHD might seem distracted or fidgety. They might check their phone or tap their fingers. A simple reading would call this disinterest, but for them, that fidgeting might be how they regulate their attention so that they can focus on you more effectively. So their baseline is going to be constant motion. And that real sign of disinterest might be them going completely still. So you got to pay attention. Trauma can also install powerful subconscious shields. So a woman who has had bad experiences might have a heightened startle response or a habit of creating physical barriers, like holding her bag in front of her. This isn't a rejection of you, it's a protective measure wired into her brain by past events. In these cases, her signals of comfort might be way more subtle. It might just be the fact that she doesn't flinch when you brush past her, or that she chooses to stand her ground and continue the conversation, even if her posture stays guarded. The solution isn't to push harder, but to slow down and lower the intensity and create a greater sense of safety. The second major filter is going to be culture and environment. The rule of personal space changes dramatically around the world. In many Latin or Middle Eastern cultures, staying very close and frequent physical touch are signs of friendly engagement, not necessarily romantic interest. If you're from North America, you might misread this as intense flirtation. On the other hand, in many East Asian cultures, being too emotionally expressive can be seen as improper. So, reservedness is going to be the norm. Strong, direct eye contact might come off as rude and not as confident. You have to adjust your thinking based on the cultural context. When in doubt, be respectful and curious instead of assuming that you know what the signal means. Maybe inquire. Third, and maybe the hardest filter to deal with, is your own personal bias. Your brain isn't just a passive receiver of information, it is an active interpreter. And when you're attracted to someone, your brain desperately wants to find proof that the feeling is mutual. This is going to be called confirmation bias. You'll start seeing polite, neutral behaviors as a sign of attraction. That polite smile that she gives every customer, you think it's specifically special for you. Her job requires her to be friendly. You see it as flirting. You talk to a waitress at a restaurant, you think she's flirting with you. That's her fucking job. Dancer at a nightclub, you think that she's into you. She gets paid for interacting with men. That's her job. She's supposed to be nice to you and hang out and get paid. She could give two shits about you. But you assume that because she's giving you her undivided attention right now, because you're paying her to sit there, that she actually has feelings for you. It's not the case. This is a very dangerous trap. The way we fight it is to become aware of what's going on inside of our own heads first. So when you feel that rush of excitement and start telling yourself a story like she's definitely into me, that's your cue to pause, step back mentally, and force yourself to look for the signs of discomfort with the same energy that you're looking for signs of interest. Actively try to prove yourself wrong. Are her answers short? Is she angling her body away? Is she checking her phone the second that you stop talking? Forcing yourself to see the whole picture, not just the parts that you want to see, is going to develop a level of discipline. All right. Now, getting deep here is what we're about to do. So if you guys are finding this breakdown valuable, it's because we're moving past the shallow advice that you see everywhere else. And this is going to be about building a real fundamental skill. So if you want to keep developing this level of social understanding, I'm going to be putting some information together called the baseline collaboration checklist, which is going to go into the membership so that you guys can use it in the world that you live in to practice observing these things without being obvious. And it's going to be a perfect tool to help you guys turn this concept into an actual skill set. Staring into their eyes usually works. Staring into their eyes can be perceived as creepy when you're giving them a catatonic stare. Regularly blinking while staring into their eyes might help, especially if they're wearing an overly flamboyant or scantily clad outfit. Staring at their face, staring at their forehead more than staring in their eyes, where your eyes are going over their eyes, where their eyes are going into your eyes, where they think that you're looking at them, but you're not. As long as your eyes are forward and up, it's less that you're not staring at their chest, you're not staring at their crotch, but they're wearing the outfits that says, look at my chest and look at my crotch. But if you're looking below their mouth, they know that you're staring below their head. And now they're, oh, he's just looking at, but you put that outfit on. So staring at their eyes usually only works if you do it moderately, but also the problem that you have is that just catatonic staring. I mean, if you stare at them too long without the proper and appropriate communication that they expect you to have, which you don't know what that baseline is either, put you in a position where they feel like you're creepy, you're weird, you're staring at them too long, you make them feel uncomfortable. One of the reasons why men will make eye contact and then kind of look over her shoulder or look above her head or something to that effect, where he's not staring directly into her eyes, which allows for them to be able to have a conversation. And again, like I said an hour ago, a lot of the times you will see people standing at an angle, at a 90-degree angle, where he's facing this way, she's facing this way. He'll look at her every now and again, but not actually directly face to face staring down her face, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable with that particular type of behavior. Is I have a unique condition where I can actually stare at things, but I can actually isolate them as I'm looking at them through my peripheral. Right. And during that time frame, you can find yourself in a catatonic stare that the other person might find creepy. He says a glance and a smile. Yes. Doesn't always work though. Bitches love smiley faces. He says, I don't see things like tunnel vision. That's actually safer for you, bro, because a lot of times when people do that, they actually focus on the person, pluck the person out of environment, and everything else goes black. So all they see is the person that they're looking at, nothing behind them, nothing to the sides. So your ability to have a peripheral observation and still be able to focus on the person is actually a safety feature that you should really enjoy. So don't observe that as being a mutant, observe that as being tactically ready. Because you can see conflict from the sidelines while paying attention to the person in front of you, while the rest of us would have to look in both directions to make sure that everything is still clear. Now, let's get into the practical systems that you guys can use to put all this stuff together. Knowing about the baseline and hidden filters is going to be a theory. Now we need a practical, repeatable system that you can actually use. Rejection is part of life. Yes, and so is acceptance. So is the collective mentality, which a lot of people have forgotten about in 2026. Now, memorizing 100 cues is going to be useless when you're under pressure. So what you need is a simple process. This is going to be a four-step system that makes sure that you're actually on good information. You're going to be acting on what you get, and then not just wishful thinking, where one scan and one observance gives you two capabilities to identify the clusters, and then three, test the signals, and then four, verbalize for clarity the confirmation of what you're looking at. He says, yeah, accurate, tactically ready. I see all the threats and all that stuff. That's good. He said, the entry point and exit points and the people entering the building, assessments of threats. Yes, that's some Jason Bourne stuff. He said, flip a coin. No, he's not going to do the Joker. He's not Harvey Dent flipping the two-sided coin. We're not going to do that. First step, we're going to scan and observe. That's going to be the first thing we're going to do. This is everything we've covered in the first section of tonight's show, but done in the moment, before or during the first few seconds of an interaction. You're doing a quick scan. First context. Where are you? Is it loud, crowded, a professional event, or a casual party? Note their state during the event. Do they seem sober, stressed, relaxed, or hungover? This initial scan takes just a few seconds, but it prevents you from walking into a situation blindly. Second, you're getting a rapid baseline. How are they holding their body before you fully engage them? What's their general environment and their energy levels? You're not judging them, you're just observing what was already there before you showed up. Well, no, Michael, you might stalk her because you're going to be in the bushes across the room with the binocular staring at her. But if you, because when you think about, a lot of the times men have to build up the courage to go over and talk to a woman. So if you're on one side of the room, she's on the other side of the room, you saw her, right? And you're probably just staring at her, which is what most men do. But if you're paying attention to her from across the room, when you decide to walk over there and go talk to her, that's when you start taking action on what you have observed. But when you are communicating with them, like you walked up, you're talking to her, you're still going to scan the area. She's got a couple of friends around her. You know, how are they? Are they friendly? Are they sociable? Or are they a bunch of bitches? Because that's going to be another thing we're going to be talking about. But you have to pay attention to the environment before you engage long enough for you to assess a baseline. Whether you can assess that baseline inside of the first 2 minutes, or if it takes you 5 or 10 minutes of casually on the opposite side of the establishment, observing the person to see what their baseline is. Is she loud and obnoxious, or is she quiet and reserved? You know, then when you get a little bit closer, you're able to determine, does her behavior change the closer you get to her? Does it stay the same? If it changes, it can change in positive fashion that shows that she wants you to be in her presence. Or it can change in a negative fashion that shows that while she's not disrespectfully or being rude and dismissing you, she is also still not comfortable with you staying, which allows you to check the body language and not have to be rejected by your friends and just simply remove yourself from the situation because you recognize that she's not comfortable with you being there without her actually having to say that, right? Which gives you the ability to build confidence with her by respectfully removing yourself from the situation without her having to ask. If she's across the room and we make eye contact, I'm going to smile and see if she smiles back. But if she smiles back, that could be an awkward response based on anxiety and embarrassment, because she's embarrassed that she got caught looking at you, where she might have just been people watching as a nervous twitch, which has absolutely nothing to do with her being attracted to you. But that's the way we used to do it 50 years ago, is that if I sent the drink to the girl, she looks over across the room, I wave and smile. If she smiles back, that's a cue of acceptance. That's not true. Nowadays, feminist model is if you send a drink to the girl, she sends it to your table so that you don't even get up, because she doesn't want you to come over to the table because they're alpha boss ladies and they can do it all by themselves. At the end of the day, you know, he said, well, if she smiles back, I ignore her. It is what it is. But the her smiling because you smiled at her, it's a reactionary response that does not show interest. It's just a retaliatory response. You got some people like culturally, two black people walking down the street make eye contact for more than 3 seconds, they speak to one another. Not all black people know each other, but they will speak to each other specifically because they made eye contact for more than 3 seconds, right? Some of them might have made eye contact for like 5 or 10 seconds as they're walking up, and they may actually do like a whole like special handshake kind of stuff and not know who each other is because they're showing that I mean peace and it's passed by, right? So just because somebody reactionary responds to you does not show interest. It shows reaction. Oh yeah, women hate that they want for what they cannot have, which means if you don't give a shit about them, they're probably going to come over there and talk to you more. Like, why are you ignoring me? Because they got to be validated. He said it overrides their thinking process. That is true. It does override their thinking process. But the problem with overriding their thinking process, which is some of the tips and tricks that other guys are telling people to go pick up chicks, is that once her thinking process has been recalibrated, she still reevaluates you after the fact. And if she still believes that you ain't shit after everything that you pulled off before she reassessed her situation, you've wasted a lot of effort. Whatever you can get out of her before she recalibrates the scenario, you got it. Whether it was a one-night stand, two-night stands, 3 dates. But once she recalibrates herself to you as the new norm, now you're looking at, is she going to commit now? My advice isn't about the one-night stand. My advice is not about the first date. Believe me, she'll come around, uh, but she won't stay. Never chase a woman. I agree with that. But playing hard to get, that makes no sense either. You've got to be open and honest about what you're looking for and articulate your expectations. And if she's going to properly receive those expectations, then you've got something to work with. If she's not going to properly receive those expectations, then there's no reason to linger. Playing hard to get worked 50 years ago. Playing hard to get is disrespectful in 2026. It doesn't matter if the women do it. It doesn't matter if the men do it. Most people are looking for authenticity. So the second step that you want to do is you want to identify the cluster. And this is going to be the most important rule of filtering out the noise. You don't have to be hard to get, but if you're going to ignore somebody so that they can come over and communicate with you, that's playing hard to get. And if they made contact with you, you could establish a general platonic neutral conversation with no expectations in return, instead of just simply ignoring them, because ignoring them is an old school form of ghosting somebody in person. You guys made eye contact. Good afternoon. You enjoying your night? I'm glad to hear it. And go back to your drink. If she wants to carry the conversation further, it's up to her. Right? But like you said, y'all make eye contact. You smile, she smiles back, and you go back to doing what you're doing. You just ghosted her in person, which is playing hard to get. Oh, you're the mysterious guy. She's going to get up out of her chair and come over and talk to you eventually. So you're going to linger in her presence the way females usually linger in a man's presence, so that she can come over and inquire on the mystery, so that you can get her attention. It's not that's playing hard to get, and that's not going to lead to the right kind of person, because you're not evaluating this person to make sure that this person's a good fit for you. You are psychologically overwhelming this person's normal neural pathways to coerce them into coming and engaging. You say, I think you're reading more into it than there is. No, I'm not. I'm hitting the nail on the head, but you're processing denial to prevent from accepting the fact that I've been covering this from a research perspective as of the past few days. So compiled with the information that I told you yesterday, no, I'm not overthinking it. I'm telling you exactly how it doesn't work well. He said, believe me, we'll bump into each other. Of course, because either you're going to deliberately bump into her, she's going to deliberately bump into you. But again, it's not a situation where, believe me, she's trying to sit like, that's not how I met your mother, where I married her after that. Like, we met each other one time in a room like 50 years ago. I looked at her, she looked at me, and we've been next to one another ever since. That's not how it is. I looked at her, she looked at me. We might have hooked up that night. We might have had a second date and hooked up after the second date, but nothing happened after that. So what you're talking about is short-term engagement style behavior patterns, not long-term processes. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. We talked about this yesterday. Is I end up talking to people for hours without knowing it. So yeah, poor advice. Well, yeah, you are giving poor advice, Michael. That's why I'm trying to tell you that you're not paying attention to what's going on. This is the thing, Michael. Because you old school, you 72 years old, you know what you're talking about from back in the day when women were more self-respectful, right? They were more modest. They treated men with more respect than what they do now. But right now, what you're talking about doing is not going to get you the right kind of woman. What you're talking about doing is going to get the wrong kind of woman. Yes, you can glance at a woman, make eye contact, trigger her neural pathways, ignore her, and because she wants validation, she will come 71. Now I'm gonna add an extra year, bro. You're 72 now. I'm gonna pass you past your next birthday. You're already 72. I'm gonna throw you under the bus. I'm gonna throw you under the bus with your walker. But because women are now these days with social media so self-validated by social media, if somebody ignores them, they demand attention. That's going to force them to come over and interact with you because they want that attention. Overwhelming their neural pathways, they're going to interact with you, they're going to engage with you. You might be able to entertain them for the evening, and that might lead to a physical interaction. But the problem is, Michael, what I'm trying to tell you is that modern 2025, 2026 behavior patterns, they are not going to turn that interaction into a 50-year relationship. They're going to turn that into a weekend affair, spring break activity, summer girls gone wild behavior. Women do not know what they want. Women expect certain things and they hope for other things and they accept everything that's given to them in between, but they don't know what they want. Because while women want stability, stability is boring. Women don't want boring. Women want excitement. You can't have excitement and stability at the same fucking time because excitement is instability. Stability is not exciting. So women don't know what they want. What they need is stability. What they would prefer is excitement. When they're tired of excitement, they go and look for the stability, which is why the nice guys finish last. Right? So they don't know what they want. That's one of the reasons why a lot of women want a man that's 6'5", 6'4", 6'3", 6'2", 200 something pounds, built like Brock Lesnar, making $100,000 a year or more. But the average woman actually settles for a guy that's under 6 feet tall that makes less than $50,000 a year because the majority of men are not 6 feet tall and don't make $100,000 a year. You're just trying to kill me off. No, you're going to be one of my oldest, most geriatric members on the show. John got it. Men build a nest, women raise the kids. That's also not true. Men build a nest and men raise the kids better than the women raise the kids, but the women will be in the nest eating bonbons and watching Oprah, complaining about how much stress they have sitting on the couch eating bonbons and watching Oprah. Let's be real, Michael. Times have changed. The way things used to be and the way things are not the same. So you guys, the traditional model is true though. The traditional model, the old-fashioned model is that men build the nest and women are supposed to raise the kids in the nest. If you find a woman of value, she's going to raise the kids the way you want the kids to be raised. But you know, a lot of the times men settle for whatever they can get because they don't want to be alone. So they end up with the wrong kind of woman, and then they have issues in the relationship. Even issues with childcare and everything to that thing. Average women marry up, average men marry down. That is 100% true. Above average men marry down. Elite men marry down. Because the hypergamy theory is that a woman has to have an elevated lifestyle to feel like she's on an equal platform with the man that she's with, which makes absolutely no sense. If he's smarter than you, stronger than you, taller than you, more successful than you, has more resources than you, he is not on your level. He is better than you in every shape and form, which thereby means that if you are partnering with somebody that is better than you, you're beneath him, and then you're under his financial umbrella, you're his dependent. Women don't want to accept that. So women are willing to offer 50-50. The most I'm going to contribute into this relationship is 50%, so that I can have superiority in decision making because I put some money into the pot. The car might cost 50 grand, but because I gave you 1,000, I get to tell you what to do with the car. No, the house might be $500,000, but because I covered the mortgage a couple times out of the year, I now get to tell you who gets to come and go in the house. No. which is why I told you guys, you got to have those relationship contracts that show, hey, the money that she puts into this is not equity stake investment, that it is usage cost, whether it's renting or leasing or whatever usage cost, so that they can't say, oh, well, I put up half of the cost or a third of the cost of the car. Now I'm entitled to a piece of the car. No, you rented the car from me. Your usage of the car is what you paid for. Usage, not equity stake, not ownership. Same thing with the house. You're renting your space and house from me. So when we split, you're not getting a share of the house. You signed a contract that says that you don't get stake in the house, right? And you make sure that you don't move her into the house or let her use the car until you get that under contract. Even if y'all are gonna move in before marriage, y'all get that under contract before she moves in. And you want to list everything that you have access to, no secrets. Everything you have access to financially is your half that she gets nothing of outside of specific circumstances that you dictate. That has absolutely nothing to do with infidelity. It'd be like, oh, well, if she stays with me for 50 or 60 years and I pass away, then she can get X, Y, and Z. If circumstance Y, X, Y, and Z, and I pass away early, and she's still here, she gets X, Y, and Z. That's how she collects this stuff out of his contract. Not, oh, if he cheated on me with the girl next door, I get everything. No, fuck you. I am not allowing that type of clause in a contract with you. Because if that's the way we're gonna be, then we shouldn't even be together in the first place. Because and I know there's a lot of women that's, oh yeah, no, you should put an infidelity clause in there. Nope. They got some women that are throwing a skank clause in there, like, oh, well, if I pass away and he gets married, all of the stuff that I've got goes to charity, so she gets nothing. So you're saying that if you live a full life with your husband and you pass away, he can't get happy with anyone else because you're going to take everything he's entitled to and give it to somebody else. We're not having these types of discussions. Your shit will get sold before I find somebody else, so that when I find somebody else, that your shit's not there anymore. Fuck around and not get married a second time. Nobody will ever know. Now, you want to remember that you never act on one signal. A single gesture is meaningless. You are always looking for a cluster of 3 or more signals happening around the same time. This is how you confirm a pattern instead of reacting to a random twitch. So what does a cluster of interest look like? It's not just a hair flip. It's a hair flip plus she's leaning her torso in closer, plus her feet are pointing towards you. That's a cluster. Another example is like she's laughing at your jokes when your jokes aren't really funny. A real smile that reaches her eyes, right? Not just a smirk, like she's like really ear to ear grins kind of thing, right? She's likely touching your forearm or something like that. She's asking you a follow-up question instead of letting the conversation die. That is a powerful cluster of comfort and engagement. She's not willing to leave your side. She's willing to accompany you. You say you have to go somewhere else. She's asking, can she continue with you? You went from, well, I was going to wrap things up. Well, I can come with you. Fine. Then in the morning, well, I got an X, Y, and Z. Well, I can stay here. Fine. Right? When she changes her plans to be with you from whatever the fuck she was supposed to be doing before she met you, that's interest. But that's only interest in you if it's not because you're paying for everything. It's because she just really wants to be where you are. Like your plans for the weekend when she asks, yes and no. Because, for example, if she's trying to make future plans with you for the weekend, she's asking, well, what do you got going on for this weekend? That's a situation where she genuinely wants to continue engaging with you. If she's going somewhere and she starts deciding, and I'm going to be talking about this in a moment, if she wants to start making future plans with you, that's what she's interested in you. However, if you're talking about yachts that you got access to and your homeboy's private chopper and You're gonna go race Ferraris down the block, and she oh are you doing that this weekend kind of thing. If you're articulating a lavish lifestyle, and she's going to inquire on being involved in that, you're going to a mansion party. She wants to go to the mansion party. That's different from, I had a really good conversation with you. What are you doing this weekend? I'd like to, continue this conversation, right? Oh, well, I didn't have anything in particular planned. I was probably going to just, go fishing or go sit on the roof of my car at the pier and watch the sunset. Oh, well, can I join you? That's when she's interested in you. Big difference. The dynamic, still the same dynamic, is that she's asking about what you're doing for your weekend. But the difference is that you talked about something boring and she wanted to be there versus you talking about something lavish and she wanted to attend that. The context clues around it. I get that one a lot from flirtatious women. There's not always flirtatious women. A lot of times they don't know what else to say. You're going to perceive it as flirtatious women because I used to think that this was flirtatious women. I told you guys a story about the girl in the T-Mobile. One of them was flirtatious. The other one really just needed a tutor. But between the two girls, their behavior was the same. They both showed interest. They both gave me their undivided attention while they were at work. They both almost ignored their customers while gravitating around me, paying me attention. But one of them wanted something, and one of them wanted me. But the one that wanted me had a husband and a kid, and I wasn't getting into that shit. But the dynamic is the behaviors are the same. You have to identify the ulterior motive behind the behavior. That's what we're focusing on. So, controversial, you must be just as alert for the discomfort cluster. Come on. For example, you ask her a question and she gives you a short answer while aligning her body away from you, while pulling out her phone or scanning the room for her friends. That is a clear cluster that says, I want out of this conversation. The polite smile that she gives, it might have a small smirk kind of thing, but not like an ear to ear grin kind of thing. That smile doesn't matter until you look at it with the cluster of escape behaviors that tells you the truth. Ignoring a discomfort cluster is the fastest way to make things awkward. Because if you start paying attention to certain signs where you should politely and respectfully bow out, if you linger too long and miss all the signs, now instead of I'm going to take my leave, have a good day, sir, now nobody wants you. Why don't you get away from here, you creep? Completely different behavior. Eventually, if you don't remove yourself with all the signs being obvious, they will embarrass you to force you to remove yourself. So you got to pay attention to the rest of it. Step 3, you want to test the signals, because once you've spotted the constant cluster of interest signals, you don't immediately jump to asking for a number. That can be too big of a leap. Instead, you test the signal with a small, low-risk escalation. It's like a probe to confirm your theory. You're watching for the reaction after you test it. What does the test look like? It can be nonverbal, like slightly decreasing the space between the two of you. So if she's leaning in on a regular basis, you scoot a little bit closer, just a couple inches. Does she hold her ground and stay where she's at, or does she unconspicuously step back? Does she scoot over? When you scoot closer to her, does she scoot further away from you? If she holds, that's confirmation. If she retreats, that's a clear signal of discomfort. So if you scoot closer to her because she was leaning in because she couldn't hear you, and you thought that she was leaning in because she was interested, and you scoot closer, and then she scoots away, but she leans in, she just can't hear you, but she doesn't want to get you closer. So pay attention to that. Another test is a light, brief touch on a neutral area, like an elbow or the upper arm, to emphasize a point. What's her reaction immediately after that? Does she relax, continue the conversation, or does she stiffen up a little, or even pull away? A verbal test could be as simple as saying, "My friends and I are grabbing a table over there. You should join us for a minute." This is a low stakes invitation. An enthusiastic okay, while her body is already moving in that direction, is a massive green light. A hesitant oh, maybe in a bit, while her feet stay glued to the floor, is a polite no. These tests give her an easy way to opt out, and her choosing not to opt out is the most honest signal that you can get. All of the body language can point to yes, and she can still tell you no. So you got to pay attention to what's going on. Exactly. All of the body language points to yes. And then she's gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna go get some coffee. I'll see you later, buddy. Because again, you have to pay attention to what was she attracted to. Because one of the things that I keep pointing out throughout the show is that she could have been attracted to you as a person, or she could have been attracted to the stuff that she saw you doing in the moment. She's attracted to the stuff. Her all the body language is going to say yes to the stuff, and then she will still reject you and walk off and go grab her some Starbucks because she ain't interested in you. So you got to pay attention to these things, right? Step 4, verbalize for clarity. So if your tests are consistently met with good responses, or at least you believe they're good responses, this is going to be the final step to make sure that everything is going in the right direction. All the body language reads the world is still just an educated guess when you're reading into her body language, because you don't know for sure until you get the confirmation. So it gets you most of the way there just by watching the body language, but you have to cross the goal line with clear, direct communication. And at this point, you have enough evidence to get your verbal warrant, where you believe that a high probability of interest actually is there. Now you're going to state your intent respectfully. This doesn't have to be some dramatic declaration. It can be something simple like, I'm really enjoying talking to you. I'd like to see you again. How about we grab some coffee? Now, if this were Luke Cage, going to get coffee wouldn't mean going to get coffee. But since it's not Luke Cage, it's actually going to be getting coffee. The offer is going to be clear. The intent is stated. And then you give her an out. Something like, if you're not feeling it, no worries at all. This last part is going to be magic. It removes the pressure and it makes it safe for her to be honest. So what you want to do is put the question out there. Let it linger for a minute or two. If she's well, no, it's okay. You don't have to. It's all good. That allows her, oh, thank you. Right. She didn't jump at the chance. She already said no without saying no. Right. But it's going to show that you're confident enough to handle the rejection and that you're going to respect her response regardless of what it is. A woman who is genuinely interested will almost always respond positively to everything that you got going on, including the verbal confirmation for the cheap ass coffee. If she hits you with, well, where are we going? I don't drink coffee. I don't know. No, that's all right. You don't want to talk to her anyway. But a woman who isn't uh getting that positive sign, they're not accepting your offer, that person is going to get a graceful exit, which saves you both time and energy because you're not wasting a bunch of money and effort in impressing this person to be there. The pros pay attention to what happens the 5 seconds after the interaction ends. The limbic system reacts fast, but it doesn't shut off instantly. This lag is an unperformed, honest reaction. After you end the conversation, take 2 steps, then casually glance back. Are you seeing an attraction lag? This might be her staying oriented towards you. A quick glance back or a self-grooming gesture, fixing her hair or her clothes. She's not done with you, right? Or You're seeing a relief lag. This looks like a quick exhale, a visual shoulder drop, or an immediate short turn away and re-immerse in her phone or her friends. This behavior isn't for you. It's for her own nervous system, which makes it incredibly honest. But you know after you left that even if you got the number, that she wasn't interested in you in the first place because she was glad that you left. So you first of all, let's forget simple cues for just a second. The highest value signal is going to be effort. The lymphatic system pushes us towards what feels rewarding and away from what feels costly. Energy is harder to fake than a smile. What does energy investment look like? She asks those follow-up questions, like I said before, instead of letting the thread die. She introduces new topics to the conversation. She uses future hooks like we should go there sometime. I'd love to try that with you. You know, she adjusts her physical position to stay near you or delays leaving. If she spends disproportionately more energy on you than she does with other people in the group, that's a signal that you can trust. Number two, looking for mismatch signals. Human communication runs on multiple channels: feet, torso, hands, face, and words. The channels closer to our survival organs, feet and torso, are harder to consciously control. When these channels conflict, like a verbal yes to an invitation, but her torso is turning away, it signals internal conflict. The rule is to trust her hardest to control channel first. The hierarchy of honest is feet, torso, hands, face, words. So she can say yes, but her feet can say no. She can say yes, but her torso can say no. Her face can say yes, her words can say no, and her feet and her torso can say yes, and her hands can be doing all kind of weird stuff. She's undecided. If her feet are exiting while her face is smiling, you act as if that's a hard no. So let's break down some of the most common clusters of cues and looking at them through new lenses. We're moving beyond simple if she does X, it means Y formula and looking at the real reasons behind these signals. First, we're going to look at the green light clusters. The cue is her torso and her feet pointed towards you. She leans in when she speaks. You see genuine smiles where her eyes crinkle at the corners. Her eye contact is engaging and she looks back at you after looking away. The deeper reasoning is this is going to be a symptom or a symphony of comfort signals, so a large quantity of comfort signals, where her body is subconsciously prioritizing you. Leaning in is a primal move to increase sensory input, to hear you and see you better. The genuine smile is a honest broadcast of positive emotion. This cluster is her nonverbal way of saying, I feel safe, I'm engaged, and I want more of this. The better move is to match and escalate slowly. So if she leans in, hold your ground and lean in slightly yourself. Match her energy. This is the time to use one of those gentle tests that we talked about earlier, like a brief touch on the arm or a low stakes invitation. The chance of a positive response is going to be very high here. Cluster number two is going to be the polite fiction cluster. You get a cue such as she gives polite, tight-lipped smiles that don't reach her eyes. Her body is angled away, often towards an exit or her friends. She frequently checks her phone or scans the room. Her answers are very short, and she doesn't ask you any questions. Deeper reasoning here is going to be a classic case of her polite, conscious brain overriding her gut level desire to leave. Her limbic system is screaming, get me out of here. The angled body is her preparing for flight. The phone checking is what experts call exit seeking behavior. The short answers or her attempt to starve the conversation of fuel. The better move is to end the conversation gracefully and immediately. Don't chase, leave. Don't try to win her over. The most confident and socially smart thing that you can do is to recognize that these signals and her behavior is giving the exit that she's asking for. Let her go. A simple, well, it was nice talking to you, have a great night, and then turning and walking away is an incredible high value move. Prevents you from having to experience the humiliating rejection when her body language has already shown you that she's not interested. It shows that you're not desperate and you respect her. Right? One of the things women are, oh, why didn't you come back and ask me a second time? Ma'am, if I asked you the first time and you told me no, I don't give a fuck what happens after that. I'm done. I'm done. Like Spider-Man, everybody gets one. So if I'm interested, you will know once. After that, it is up to you to pursue. And you got until I put it in gear because I'm about to leave. Cluster number 3 is going to be the anxious or ambiguous cluster. The cue here, you're going to see a spike in fidgeting. She starts playing with her necklace or rubbing her arms. She might cross her arms or hold her drink high on her chest. Her eye contact is on and off. The deeper reasoning here is going to be one of the most misread clusters because many guys see crossed arms and think rejection, but this is often self-soothing behavior. She isn't necessarily blocking you out. She might just be trying to comfort herself because of social anxiety or even a spike of nervous excitement because she's attracted to you, where the fidgeting is just her discharging nervous energy. The key is to look at the rest of the cluster. Is she still facing you? Is she holding her ground? If she's self-soothing and that is combined with escape behavior, it's likely discomfort. But if she's combined with proximity, it could be nervous interest. The better move here is don't escalate. Instead, your job is to decrease the pressure. Take a small step back, lower the volume, lower the speed of your voice. Your goal is to make her feel safer. If her self-soothing behavior decreases and she visibly relaxes, that's a fantastic sign. She's getting more comfortable with you. If you step back a little bit, she stepped forward a little bit, but she's still doing what she's doing, then she's staying in proximity. That's a key sign of interest. Cluster number 4, shy or neurodivergent clusters. Cues here are going to be her facial expressions. That isn't very animated. She might not make much eye contact. However, she constantly stays near you. If you move, she seems to show up nearby a few minutes later. She agrees when you suggest spending time together, even if her yes is quiet. Deeper reasoning here is going to be where understanding her baseline becomes a superpower. Her normal might just be one of low expressiveness, or she may have a neurotype that makes typical social signaling different for her than what you normally would expect from other women. In this case, her actions and choices are far more important than her micro expressions. The fact that she is choosing to be near you and choosing to agree to your invitation is the signal that you're supposed to be paying attention to, not the rest of the body language. Her brain is driving her to seek proximity, even if her social programming is shy or atypical. A better move with this type of person is to slow everything down and use clear verbal communication. Don't rely on the subtle text. She might not perceive them. Be patient. When you do escalate, make it clear and give a verbal offer like, I would like talking to you further. And would you be open to getting a coffee next week? And always make it something very low, very cheap. Walk in the park, watch a sunset together. You know, something not too complex, minimal effort. Her answer is going to be more reliable than her nonverbal cues. So the solution to the confusion isn't a better checklist, it's a totally new approach. The scientific truth is that Her body language is an honest gut level reaction, and the only way to read it is to first understand her unique baseline behavior. It all comes back to that. It's about seeing her normal and then spotting the cluster of signals that change from the norm. You have to filter those signals through the context where her potential neurodivergence, her culture, and your own basis, including the biases that you hold, all play roles in your ability to understand this. And then you want to use the practical systems. Scan the area, identify the cluster of at least 3 signals, if not more. Test that cluster with a small move, and finally state your intentions with clarity and confidence. This isn't a magic trick. You can't decode her in an instant, but this framework is damn close. It's a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. But it's a skill that will make you more perceptive, empathetic, and socially intelligent as a person. You'll stop overthinking everything. And you'll be less afraid of the rejection because you'll be acting on better information. And you'll start connecting with people in a more authentic way. So you want to stop looking for the secret code, start learning to observe reality. The signs are there, not on a list, but in the honest, unfiltered broadcast of human nervous systems. So your job is just to learn how to watch and listen. If you made it this far, you're clearly ready to move beyond the shadow advice that other people give you. The next logical step is to understand how to make a great first impression. For that, I highly recommend that you guys pay attention, because we're going to be giving you that information in an upcoming show where we're going to be talking about the psychology of the first impression. Make sure that you guys pay attention to that. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more no-nonsense guides to human behavior, where in spite of other people's observations, I give you guys the core information that breaks down the myths and the other beliefs. Because just like what we discussed today with Jolyn and Michael, a lot of the stuff that we believed as men back in the day that we took for surface level proof and validation, that information was not backed by facts. It was backed by personal preference. It was backed by the capabilities for a man to get laid, not a man to find a long-term partner, right? When we're looking for long-term partner behavior, we're looking for something completely different than what we're looking for when we're looking for a one-night stand or a hookup. There's less effort into hooking up with a girl than what there is with long-term commitment, right? So we got to be looking for different things, which is one of the reasons why mistaking a short-term behavior for long-term commitment leads us to medium-term bad relationships where we have breakups that we have to get over and recover from. It's one of the reasons why we talk about these things. Now, I want you guys to remember we got a lot of stuff coming up for this week. We've got the rest of the majority of May and part of June already up there. Our Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are going to be moment by moment. But well, actually, our Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be moment to moment. But I am going to be making sure that we put up a lot of our Wednesdays tonight and tomorrow. So we're going to be having a lot more stuff going up there. So make sure that you guys stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff going into the membership this month. So make sure that you go out and check out the membership. And make sure that you hit those notification buttons, because we got everything going on. So many different shows that are already pre-posted. You guys can go ahead and hit those notification buttons on YouTube, and you guys can see which ones you want to make sure that you're here for, and which ones that you're going to put into action while the show is going live, and then you can catch them on the replay. Either way it goes, that's all I've got for you guys for tonight. So I want to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give you this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your financial life, but also by improving your personal decision-making skills. You have to be able to proactively put forth the effort to analyze the things that are inside of your control that you don't like and make the necessary changes to improve them. And that gives you the capabilities to navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective, special shout out to Nicole. y'all can make yourselves higher value women as well, because y'all have to first find your 20 or 30-year plan, proactively reverse engineer it as to what you're going to do today, and then put forth the necessary steps to achieve your goals. If you keep your eyes and ears open for the appropriate suitor, you're looking at characteristics, you're looking at personality, drive, ambition, dedication, integrity, and seeing his 10 or 20-year plan and how that meshes with your 20-year plan, and then y'all can come together and potentially achieve each other's goals simultaneously. I tell you guys on a regular basis that two people can make it to $1 million faster than one, but it requires both of you to have good decision-making skills with your finances, good budgeting skills, and a good game plan for end results. So I want to thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. I'm your host, Sander, where we talk about thank you for coming to this and that. And that's where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.